This warning is ultra-modern. We can translate it. If your eye becomes an occasion of sin to you, gouge it out and throw it away. It might be the smartphone. It might be the bad habit on the computer. It might simply be the bad habit of not looking carefully where one lets one's eyes rest out there in the street. I think you know what I mean. There's nothing new under the sun. But there is something that we need to think about on this day of the angels, and it's the clear warning that the Lord gives specifically with regard to the angels of the earth, children. It's fitting because we have one or two children here. And as they start their life, one sees that we have under our care a treasure which is immortal and infinitely precious, whom the Son of God has died, and that He actually is looking after through us. We are looked after by angels, but we are angels for others. When I was entering the monastic life in 1976, I was given an angel, and strangely enough he's actually still in contact with me. If somebody dies, it's through him I know about it. He's now procurator in Switzerland, in one of the big monasteries there. But his duty was to be overlooking and saying what to do, because there are many observances, many things technical just to know how to do by imitation, and he's called the angel of the person who enters. But we are angels for each other. I've seen in Ireland how oftentimes in big families a big sister becomes a little mother very quickly, and it's lovely to see that. Actually, if one's noticed on Sunday at Johnstown, that is often happening. We have elder siblings carrying a child. It's beautiful to see when they come up for Holy Communion for a blessing. But with regard to this question, it's frighteningly warned that we could be responsible for eternal damnation if we don't do our duty towards another person. I was talking actually recently to a friend of mine who has children, now grown up. One of them is practicing and is good into his faith, but another is not. And I've seen that person growing. That person is now in a relationship and has 2 children. But this bit is what frightened me. It's what she had just said to her daughter. She had said, "You're going straight down to hell." And what she meant by that was that you're not only refusing the faith to yourself, but you're deliberately refusing it also to the 2 children, giving them bad messages, which the grandmother was picking up, and making them, as it were, aware in adverse circumstances that actually anything to do with God is to be turned away. And you can see the reaction of the children already. And that word actually somehow got through to her, at least for a while, because she came back on the phone and said, "Mammy, do you mean I'm going to that place?" So there was some faith in there still. What will be the long-term issue, I don't know. But it's interesting that that mother, now grandmother, was not afraid to say what the Lord had warned here. That to cause scandal, to cause offence, because the scandalum is something that actually you trip over. If you cause that to a child, passing from the beginning a bad message, then the responsibility is massive. And I mean massive. And of course that's out there. On every level, from the simple one of using bad language before a child, to allowing a child actually just to watch any bad stuff on a screen, which is the easy way out, to have a babysitter in the house, park them in front of some kind of machine which will do it for you, not controlling what they're going to watch, because there aren't all that many safe things, unfortunately, anymore. Now, with regard to specifically the guardian angels, I've become very much aware of them. It's strange, but when one is living with the Blessed Sacrament in the house with no one else in the house except them, one becomes aware of their presence. It's like an invisible central heating system. There's warmth in the house. One goes into the chapel and one feels homeward bound. Yeah, here we are, together again, and they're waiting for you, and they're happy to have you in the midst. And they're very happy to have little children, by the way, in the midst. They say, as it were, come along, come in our midst, we'll make room for you. And they love to have little children close to them because the children are a little bit angelic. They're not yet damaged by old Nick, especially when baptized. Now, as the years have gone by, I've had quite a few, as it were, indirect contacts with this angelic world, out of the blue. I remember years ago, again back to the children, there was this little lassie about 8 years old who had gifts, and we knew that. We didn't want to kind of make a fuss of her because that would have damaged her, but we knew that she had this gift because she thought every child had it, that she heard the Lord's voice. And because she was so innocent, we sometimes discreetly would get some kind of answers with the little girl. And it was obviously true because there's no way she could invent the answers. But when it came to certain things with regard to me, as years ago now, straight away certain things came out through her because she had this link with this invisible world of which she was very much aware. And first of all, I was to be a priest, I was to be in Ireland, and I was to be east of where I was at the time, which is actually where I am now, on the east coast. And on other things went. But then lots and lots of other things have happened in the meantime. Because being involved, for instance, with the contemplative life, nuns, living, for instance, adoration day and night, one picks up things. And a convent I'm still actually in contact with has an old family story. It's an old community, going right back. And things have happened over the centuries. And every time I went there, I would come across two, at least, visible miracles. One was the crucifix, which centuries ago had been attacked by, I think, a Protestant violently, and had defended itself by pulling up its legs. The crucifix. And the legs were still pulled up to defend itself against whatever it was, bullets or whatever. But the other is in the church itself. It's at an altar to the left of the main altar. And it's this. And it involves the angels. The good sisters, centuries ago, were making what is actually quite popular in Italy, a statue of the dead Jesus. It's very important at Eastertide and Good Friday. And this was there completely finished with great feminine delicacy. Nuns can do very well. And they were trying to get the last bit done properly, but it was time for Compline and bed. It was the face. And they were trying and trying and trying. I forget what they were using. They were using, I think, holy things. Things which had to do with the Eucharistic sacrifice, was to make it as close to God as possible. Either bits of corporals or whatever. There was something like that they were doing, but they couldn't get it right. There was something wrong each time. So there we are. Have to leave it. Have to go to bed because they had adoration in the night. But it didn't finish there. They got up the following morning and went straight to it, and it had been perfectly finished by the angels. And in that world where Jesus is the centre, adored and also well celebrated in the liturgy, beautiful liturgy, day and night, one sees how the angels are involved and are concerned about these holy maidens who have given themselves as earthly angels to do what they're doing in heaven, adoring gratuitously and gazing upon the presence, which of course they can't see. There are lots and lots of angelic interventions that I've come across over the years since being ordained through reading about them or hearing about what people have said. I was talking to Don Mark one day of Silverstream, and he was telling me how he had an experience of a really lethal accident. There was no way he could have got out alive, somersaults in the air and all kinds of things, but just calmly landing on the ground, not a scratch. The car a write-off, but he was quite okay. Father Michael, I think, has had something similar more than once, and so have I. And these things are obviously angelic interventions, which we brush aside. But then, very close to us, quaint little things. She actually came yesterday to give me hand-me-downs of the Irish Catholic. She lives over the road. It's a family which kind of adopted me from the beginning here. There were 2 priests in that family. And one time I was with her because I didn't have internet for a long time and I had to do something there. And it was just before coming to Johnstown. And I had with me the camcorder, I forget for what reason, and I'd taken off the battery. Anyway, it was a bit of a mess, and I had to go. And I couldn't find the battery to the camcorder. And it was kind of urgent, time was running out. And so at last resort, I'll get my guardian angel onto this, because he can see where it is. The angel can see and can help you by giving you a nudge. And it was out of the blue, the nudge actually came to her. Try there, under there. And no one would have thought of looking there. And it was there! So if that's not an angelic intervention, tell me what is. But you've got to pick them up. So that's what I want to land at. We've got to pick up these nudges because they're kind of important. There was a person coming up a big, dangerous hill at fairly high speed some years ago and heard this word out of nowhere. Slow down. It was objective. So she did. And had she not done so, it would have been a lethal accident on the top of that hill. There was something coming on the wrong side at the wrong time at high speed. And so that was genuinely an intervention. There was also, more than once, in war situations, angelic interventions. And that's not surprising given what's going on a battlefield. But I remember coming across this one. A young American Catholic had been taught a prayer to St. Michael, not the one we usually say, but another one, Michael of the morning, and he would say it every morning. And he was coming that day, he had to go for a short moment away from his troop, from A to B, and at that point he came across this whole row of the enemy, and there's no way he could get out of it without his troop. But somehow he felt power to go on, nevertheless, and he remembered this power of the angel, Michael, and must have invoked him, because suddenly he found, oh, they're pulling away. Bizarre. And he walked on. But then the sergeant came along after they'd cleared away and said, who was shooting? Who was with you there? Who got no... No one! But of course there was somebody. Look, didn't you see what happened? There was no one. And afterwards he realised it was St. Michael himself must have intervened and with force sent them away. And I've heard this also from a friend of mine who's now deceased, because Mennonites, St. Michael and the angels are very concerned about the Blessed Sacrament and they defend it. And this nun, she was there in church and the priest whispered to her, sister, follow that man, he's got the Blessed Sacrament. So she got up quickly from church and ran after him and eventually cornered him, and he refused. He denied, he wouldn't have anything to do with her, or he just denied, had anything with, and she wouldn't back down. Now she couldn't do any more after trying, insisting. She tried every means, but he wouldn't yield. And so she had to back off. I thought, I can't do any more. I'm a woman against a man. And then she heard, likewise, a voice inside her. And she insisted it was a male, a virile, strong voice. Hold your ground. And suddenly his face, the man, changed. He used to be looking at something behind her. He went into his pocket, got out this sandwich, but then it was actually crumbled because he under tension, and gave it to her, and off he went in the direction of precisely where she knew there was Satanism going on. He wanted it for satanic rites. And then she realised what happened. It was St. Michael, who must have in some way made himself manifest to him, but to her it was this voice. She picked it up. So that's how close heaven is to us. Just one last little story. it's something that happened some years ago, and I wasn't yet a priest. I was in formation at Ireland at the time, and I had to go home for a short while. And there I went to Mass in the evening. Something had happened before I left. It was that Dr. McGinnity had asked me if I would compose something to the angel guardian of Ireland, because countries also have a guardian angel. I remember Portugal, that the angel appeared in 1916 to the children. Well, Ireland has one too. His name is Victor, but there was no prayer or devotion to him practically. And he asked me if I would compose something. So I brought this to prayer, and this hymn came, and the melody at the same time, and it was okay. So it just had to be written, and it came. So anyway, that was good. And then we sang it. Father McGinty celebrated Holy Mass there, and we sang it. But it was in the house precisely of this little lassie, who was 8 at the time. And so, okay, we left it there. But then I got home, and I went to church, and my mother greeted me when I came back from church in Carnarvon, in Wales, and she, who was not a Protestant, said this: there was a phone call when you were away. She just thought, it was this: the angel loves the hymn, and so does the Blessed Virgin Mary. And she left it at that. She just transmitted the fair play for she transmitted it. But actually, strangely enough, she got into the hymn herself, and she added organ accompaniment, not accompaniment, I did the melody, but she added the harmonisation of it, because she was a good musician, so she liked it. So anyway, she was chuffed about that, but kept it under her bonnet, because you're not supposed to hear angels, and especially Our Lady, you're not supposed to do that kind of thing. So anyway, all that to say, that's how heaven is close to us, when actually we take it seriously, but we don't. Tell the children about these things. They've got an angel, and one day we'll see him, and he'll be beaming. And he wants us to be an angel for someone else. Remember now, go through the day and be an angel for someone. Beam as your guardian angel beams on you. And don't give off bad fumes. We're only here once. Let's help each other and be angels one for another.